This week on the podcast, I cover my research and recent experiences while working with Kambo and Sananga, two Amazonian plant medicines. So while I am completely new to these medicines, I am someone who is passionate about healing with herbs and a future herbalist. So I felt called to do the research, to do the work, and to share it all with you. Highlights from this episode. I covered the importance of practicing temperance, particularly when working with herbs from the Amazon. I talk about the energetic, metaphysical, spiritual, and of course physical benefits of Kambo and Sananga and why anyone would want to do them. I go over my ceremonial experiences with these medicines, how I prepared, how I felt during, and how I felt after. And of course, I share the lessons I've learned along the way.
You are listening to the School of Whispers podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, and this is my space to get real, open, and weird about my life experiences as a psychic, medium, energy healer, and student of Chinese medicine. On the show, I'll be sharing my healing journey and the concepts I've learned along the way, and I'll be having guests on talking about the same sort of thing. I am so happy you're here, and I hope this show leaves you feeling inspired and empowered to learn how to listen to the whispers of your own body and spirit. Let's get into the show.
All right, welcome. So if you are here, it is likely because you've heard the words Kambo, maybe Sananga, which I don't think it's as common as Kambo has become. And you may have been hearing it from me, or you may have been hearing it out in the world and you're curious what this is. These are medicines that I've only been introduced to in the past few months. And I'm not a practitioner, so I'm not a professional on the matter. And there are many interviews, podcasts, blogs out there written by professionals, interviewed by professionals. I'm really here to give you a brief overview on the medicines, what I've learned, just because I love research and I love sharing what I've learned. And then I want to share with you my experiences with them. And why I want to share this is because these medicines really helped me shift in a way that I could have never done on my own, in a way I could have never imagined. And I really think that, and they're all natural. So it really aligns to the way that I choose to live. And I'm assuming if you are here, and especially if you're a returning listener on the show, you align with that sort of living. And so I believe that these are medicines that have been forgotten or forgotten, I mean, by our society. And I think that the world would really strongly benefit from these medicines. All that being said, I do want to give two caveats here. I'll always give this with plant medicine. It's such a niche thing. It's such a tough thing. This is hard work. It's not from a Western perspective where you take a pill and then the pain goes away. You do these medicines and you experience pain, and the pain is your teacher. And then it's temporary, and then you move on and you can heal, and eventually you will feel better. And that's what I love about these medicines is there's been so many times in my life where I felt intense pain in my body. I felt like shit, and I didn't know, it wasn't my choice, and I didn't know when it was going to end. And with these medicines, you know that, one, you chose this. And if you live your life from the perspective that you are so much more infinitely wiser and all-knowing than you think you are, we have our human, then we have this higher self and all these other components which involve our ancestors and our guides. And there's just so much knowledge there. So if you live your life from that perspective, then you really have this deep respect for the choices that you make. And even if you're in those choices and it sucks, you know that it's for a higher purpose. And that knowing, it's always helped me get through to the other side, and to see that, yes, this choice was a gift from me to me for my greatest expansion. And 2, it's temporary. I want you, as you listen, to use your discernment. I'm not an authority. You are the authority on your healing journey. So don't assume that this is necessarily for you. Please do external research. Please listen to other podcasts where there are practitioners and blog posts and all that good stuff. My other caveat is with the advent of Amazonian medicines, that's where these 2 medicines come from, is from the Amazon. As they've grown more and more popular in the Western world, I think that some of us, we forget that these are limited resources. Yes, the earth generates these medicines. They are children of the earth, just as we are, which is so cool to me. But it's something that is not this unlimited resource that you can take and take and take from. So while I do think the world can and will benefit from knowledge of these medicines, I want you to come at this world at a tiptoe, at a one step at a time. Please don't try to do it all, take it all, own it all, because if we go at these medicines with the mentality that we've grown up in, and I'm not saying you're bad or, I know I grew up in this way, this capitalistic structure mindset where if you want it, you create it, you get it. There's going to be further innovation to make sure that these resources never run out, even though that's an absolute illusion. I've been watching a lot of Game of Thrones lately, and the word Valar Morghulis, all men must die, all resources eventually run out. And except for maybe air and water, but even then water is, anyways, I digress. These are not things that mass innovation and capitalism and technology is going to ensure will never run out. So please be respectful. Please practice reciprocity, making sure that you are giving back as much as you are taking. And be aware of this very delicate balance that we are really trying to create, us conscious individuals. So that's my whole spiel. No more warnings or things like that. Actually, the big warnings have yet to come with these medicines. But to really briefly explain both of them, Kambo it comes from a secretion of a frog, and you do it for the peptides. There's over 120 active peptides in Kambo, and I will get into a little more. I think I don't like to throw out words and not explain what words mean, so I will get into what peptides mean, but within Kambo, you are purging. It is a purgative. It is not a psychedelic, and you are hardcore purging the whole time. I will get more into it later. And then there's Sananga, and Sananga it's a root from the Amazon, and you pulverize it and you turn it into eye drops. And those eye drops, they have a extensive list of physiological benefits, such as treating inflammation, detoxing, treating ocular disease, but it also helps with something in the Amazon they call panema, which is evil eye. I'll dive into more of that in just a second. I'm going to get into Kambo here, and I do have a website up in front of me. All of this knowledge is not ingrained in my brain yet. There is a program that it's called Tribal Detox that my friend's husband just did, and I definitely plan on doing that one day, where you really dive into the history, the knowledge, the experience of Kambo as somebody who receives as well as a practitioner. But I have not done that. Very new. But so what Kambo is it's a secretion from a frog. It's actually sweat, and it is very humane in the way they do it in the Amazon. They will catch the frog, and it comes from the giant monkey frog. And so when they catch the frog, a shaman will tie its arms and legs, and that is probably the most discomfort that the frog will go through. And then what happens is the shaman will sing, and as the shaman sings, the frog will start to sweat. and they will scrape the secretion off the frog onto a wooden paddle. And then they'll mark the frog so that other shamans who are looking for Kambo won't use that frog again. They have a certain allotted amount of time in order to respect the animal. And again, practicing balance. So when they take this sweat and they put on the paddle, the sweat will dry out and sort of coagulate in a way. And so when it comes time to serve it, the practitioner will scrape the medicine off the paddle, and it kind of looks like a little resin ball. And the receiver of the Kambo, at this point, when they're sitting in ceremony, they've done at least 6 to 8 hours of fasting, and the practitioner will make 1 to 2 to 3, maybe more. I've only experienced at most 3 burn holes on the body, and then they will insert the resin and the purge will happen. And as I mentioned before, why do you do it? You do it for these peptides. So peptides are the building block of proteins, and proteins are the building block of you. Proteins drive your life force in a physiological manner. Without proteins, there is no you, there is no movement, there is no creation, there's nothing. So it's very, very essential. And a few of these proteins, I'm going to read a little bit about them. A few about these peptides that are in Kambo. So we have one that's called adenoregulin, and it's actually a very strong antimicrobial and antibiotic. So it's going to help against bacteria, protozoa, viruses, infections, and fungus. And it also has, on a psychological level, a really strong effect on treating depression, helping with seizures or any loss of cognitive function through an experience such as a stroke. Another, and I'm going to skip around with the peptides. Obviously, I'm not going to list 120 of them, but another really interesting peptide that's in Kambo is deltorphin. And it is one of the most powerful painkillers known to man. It's about 4,000 times stronger than morphine. And what's really interesting is when the West learned about Kambo, what they've been doing since then is they've been working on extracting these peptides to create medicines, to create antibiotics. So it's absolutely something that is relevant and active in the Western medicine world. But what I've learned with my study of herbs and my experiences with plant medicine is when you extract and seek to reduce an herb, and in Chinese medicine, an herb is considered a tree, any sort of plant, but it also includes animal products. So when I'm talking about herbs right now, I'm also including animal products such as Kambo. And so when you seek to reduce an herb to its individual forms, such as these peptides, how I feel is you're losing the spirit, the full completion of the spirit of this herb. Thus, you're losing the psychological teaching experience. It's like you become the apprentice of the medicine, and you truly, if you are open enough, will experience this otherworldly wisdom that you can't hear from a human. You can only hear from sitting alone with this, as alone as you can be and safe as you can be with these medicines. So another interesting peptide that's kind of relevant for me is this peptide called the phylokinin, and it's also known as bradykinins, and they are involved with our circadian rhythms, as well as sensory nerve transmission and inflammatory pain. So what I've been going through an herbal detox called Herpicil to help treat my herpes. And if you are hearing this and your ears are perking up and you're like, wait, this chick has herpes, what does she know about working with the body and healing it? I included in the show notes a podcast that I did all about my herpes journey, and I will talk deeper into my Herbalist experience. I've just finished the 90 days. They were a tough fucking 90 days. And a huge side effect of this detox, so I have done the Herpacil to help my body fight this virus, HSV, and it's been hard on my body. And so I've been feeling a lot of body aches, a lot of brain fog, it's killing a lot of fungus and unloading a lot of heavy metals in my body. And so these peptides have really helped me feel better. It's helped me with my circadian rhythm, so my sleep cycles, with my ability to make sense of the world around me, because even that was slowing down. And this peptide, the phylokinins, they relax or smooth muscles, and it's a really potent vasodilator. So it helps open up your veins and your arteries to promote smooth blood flow, which I've been getting lightheaded really easily from that detox protocol. So it's really helped me feel strong and present in my body, which also, if you're somebody who struggles with blood pressure, this will have a long lasting reduction in your blood pressure. Another really great, this is the last peptide I'll mention, is the tryptophylins. And again, they are potent for the cardiovascular system and anti-inflammatory systems, anti-cancer, but it also helps remove yeast and candida. And that was a condition within my body that was enabling viruses and other issues inside of me to persist. In my research, I've also learned that a lot of people will do Kambo to help with Lyme disease, to also help with thyroid disease, a lot of different autoimmune things. What I've come to learn is this one podcast I listened to, I can't remember which one it was, but this woman, she had done ayahuasca because she really wanted to regulate her body. She had a couple of autoimmune disease, and when she was there, the practitioners were saying, I know that that's your main goal, but the purge with ayahuasca is more of this psychoactive, deep inner darkness sort of purge. Whereas Kambo, it can be that, but although Kambo is not a psychedelic, it will not make you hallucinate. But yeah, on the podcast, she shared how the practitioner said Kambo would actually be something that would be a lot more effective for her. It also is something that helps with coming off of hard drugs. In another podcast I listened to, a practitioner, he worked with a woman who had overdosed on heroin and was at death's door, and working with her family as well as her, as well as other Western medical doctors to consistently measure her vitals and whatnot. He helped her get off heroin. He helped her fully detox off of heroin, which is pretty incredible. Another thing to mention is Kambo is completely legal in the US, and because it is a non-psychedelic, and it is very safe as long as you are under the supervision of a qualified practitioner. There, of course, are some people who, like if you're pregnant, breastfeeding, if you have heart conditions, if you're in the middle of chemo, if you've had a brain aneurysm or stroke, like short, like in within the recovery, and there's other things that may not be compatible with Kambo. But the reason why you need a practitioner with you, and there's a lot of reasons. Some people do faint.
And if you want to hear about a personal experience, not mine, not my own, but of one of Natasha's, tune in next week, her very first Kambo session. She passed out and she had practitioners around her who knew how to bring her back. And while I don't know, I'm not a practitioner, I don't believe that's very common. And actually for me, I had the complete exact opposite experience. I didn't leave my body at all. And that's actually what I really love about Kambo. I felt so fully present in my body the entire time. Something that's hard for me when I do psychedelics is the mere act of leaving my body. I don't entirely love that experience because it requires a level of surrender that's sometimes really scary. So
Kambo wasn't scary for me in that sense. It was, I just got to be fully in my body. But yeah, there's points where you're fucking tired. It's hard work. The whole time you are working and you are purging, and sometimes you'll get tired. So it'll be good, especially if you're somebody who needs that extra push. It's so important to have a practitioner with you. But something that's really important within the purge is making sure you have enough water in your system. So you have to be about, I think it's 6 to 8 hours fasted. My first one, I did a 24-hour fast, and it was on accident. I missed my feeding window, and I was in school, and it just worked out that way that I was fasted for 24 hours. So looking back, I think it did make my purge easier, but I was fucking wrecked at the end of it. So you do have to be fasted so that you're not throwing up food. Everything's digested so that you can throw up bile. The purging of the bile is really where the magic happens, and it constricts your muscles, the Kambo. So you need water to help, because bile is this thick, not very viscous substance, and you need water to, one, dilute the bile so that you can purge it easier, two, to help carry it up your body, and three, to make sure that you're not getting dehydrated as your muscles are intensely contracting. With a practitioner there, they're going to make sure that you drink about a liter to maybe a liter and a half. I think at most I've heard somebody say 2 to 3 liters of water beforehand. I feel like 3 liters would be a little bit much. And then to also make sure that if you're struggling, to make sure that you're also drinking water in the middle of it. But even more importantly, a practitioner is there to make sure that you aren't over drinking water. It's funny in clinic. So for those who are new, I'm in school getting my master's in oriental medicine, so acupuncture, herbs. I'll hear a lot of people who are on their water journey who tell me, I drink a gallon of water a day, no matter what. Or if you've heard of the 75 hard, it's this challenge where you do certain things for 75 days. They talk about drinking a gallon of water a day. And I just don't, I've been there. I've been there before. It's not right. You should drink water when you're thirsty. And that's about it. Drinking too much water is actually really bad for your cells.
So on one hand, when your cells are severely dehydrated, they dry up, they become brittle, and they'll eventually, in a sense, die. Yeah, no, not in a sense, they die.
But on the other hand, when they're overhydrated, your cells can become so turgid and they will literally burst, and you'll go through a cellular death, and you can die from it. And as a vetting process, ask, how much water am I going to be drinking? If they're saying 3+ liters, that's probably a sign that they don't really know what they're doing. That being said, of course, I'm new to the game. But yeah, I've done a lot of research, and that seems to be the case. So I want to talk about my experiences with Kambo. The first time I did it, I had already signed up for later in the year. I think it was in September or maybe early October, and I had already signed up to do Kambo in December later that year. But I randomly met this woman, Natasha, who her interview is next week. It's a great one. And I randomly met her at this event where somebody was serving hape, and there's something about her energy that I just liked. I gravitated towards, and I asked her if we could connect, and turns out she serves Kambo in your home. So long story short, I really, really so strongly felt the call that I really jumped into it. And me saying that, I tend to jump into things. So if I could give you advice, don't really listen to me about doing that. I really think there is... it's so important to sit with the call and to meditate with the call and to not jump at things, because you might make a decision that you regret. You might sign up to be with somebody who isn't fully in alignment. And if you want to talk more about that, of course, about who you should go to, the vetting process, you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk to you about that now that I've had these experiences. But yeah, so that day in the morning, I took a bath. I was in a state because I was in about, I think I was finishing my first month on this Herpacil detox. And this detox really kind of sucked. It was really hard on me. Like almost within the first week, I was purging a lot of phlegm. I was feeling sick and so much gunk was coming out of my mouth, my nose. I was feeling the low energy of that. Really, that whole experience felt like 3 months of feeling like the victim to my phlegm. And I was also going through some personal struggles with family and just a lot of growing pains. So I really did feel so ready for ceremony. And so I cleaned my house very thoroughly because I think it's so important to have a clean space when you are cleaning your body. It's the environment you're in is so important. So I blessed the space. Natasha came over. We did the interview. And I'm really proud of myself. When I listened back to it, I thought I would have sounded a lot more exhausted, but I sounded pretty pumped. Fasting has been something that I have recently found myself diving deeper into. Maybe I'll do a podcast on that. Fasting is an interesting thing. What happens after you reach a certain point. But anyways, so we did the interview, we talked a little bit about why I wanted to do this, and then we went into it. So we started with Sananga, actually. And I'm going to dive deeper into what Sananga is, but it's an intense medicine. It's a pain teacher. So I laid down and we did the Sananga and I just cried like a baby, and it opened me up to realizing, it humbled me and opened me up to realizing why I really was there. And then she kind of looked at me and she said, okay, Steph, so the way that she dilutes her Kambo is with saliva, in her opinion. And she talks about this in next week's interview. In her opinion, the way that she dilutes it with saliva is a lot stronger than diluting it with water. I don't really know. To be honest, I don't really know if that's the case because my second Kambo experience, honestly, was really hardcore intense. It was a lot more difficult than my first one. But anyways, so she said to me, this is strong medicine. I have had people who they'll feel it and they'll kind of freak out and they'll tell me, no more, enough. I want it to stop. And I tell them, no, I will take the medicine off when your bile is clear, when the medicine is done working on you. And so I'm looking at her, my eyes get all big, my mouth gets kind of small, and I'm like, okay. And, just at that point, you're like, all right, in or out. And when you choose in, there's no turning back from that point. So if it's your first time receiving Kambo, it's more common to receive the burn marks or the portals on your arm. I also recently learned from Danica's Instagram page for Kambo, Love Kambo Healing, which is in the show notes, that it's common for women to also receive it on their ankles. And these burn marks, you're not reaching your blood. They're very superficial, and it's in Chinese medicine they call it the Su Li, which is the space where your Wei Qi so that your Wei Qi is your defensive qi, your immune system, the energy of your immune system, where it flows. In a Western context, you could call it your lymphatic system. So on my arm, she made 3 dots with an incense stick. So she burned 3 holes. It really doesn't hurt, honestly. It's like hurts as much, if maybe a tiny bit more than acupuncture would. Maybe if you've ever had acupuncture done, it's like on your toes, those sometimes will burn. So if it felt like that, and then she put the 3 resin balls in and the Kambo. And so I sat down, and one thing that she told me is it's a vasodilator. So your heart will start racing, or another great word for it is fluttering. And she said, one of her clients had recently said she leaned into that flutter and she felt her heart just take her, and she felt like she was flying with her heart. And that was really great advice for me, because when I felt my heart start to pick up and start to gallop, I leaned into it rather than resisting. I felt it, and it took me with it. And I felt like I entered Kambo land. And I started to feel like a fire was stoked in my belly. And the Sananga, interestingly, and I don't think that this is a really common experience with Sananga, but I felt really cold from it. I was shivering. It felt like all the cold from Sananga was pushed out by this fire of Kambo stoked in my belly. And I remember saying, "It's so cozy. I love him." And Natasha was like, "Yeah, for now." You feel cozy for now. And then I start to feel sort of like a swelling and a sort of vibrating heat sensation start to climb up my throat and around my lymph nodes and around my ears. I started to kind of feel that my stomach started to contract. I started to, gag a little bit. And you start with drinking the water, and she told me, "I think it's time for you to drink a little bit more water." And I just started puking. I started puking and puking and puking, and there was a lot of puke. And like I said earlier, I was in my body the whole time. I didn't feel lost within it. If anything, I was encouraging myself, and there was a strange satisfaction to the whole experience because, as I mentioned before, I'm sitting there, I'm feeling like shit. I know I chose to feel like shit, and I know that it's temporary. Natasha did not time it. I don't think anyone I've worked with has timed how long the medicine was on me, but it's no less than, it's like 15, maybe at most 20 minutes. And I was only puking like a third of the time. It was more like I was sitting there feeling like physical purge as well as energetic, like my field was pushing things out of me. At the end of it, I looked down at my bucket and it looked mostly yellow, and there was a lot of phlegm in it. And I also saw this like black stuff, and I asked her what that was, and she said it may have been undigested food, but I remember I had fasted for 24 hours, which again, don't recommend. Don't do that. So what the stuff looked like to me, it almost looked like mold. In 2021, for 6 months, I lived somewhere with toxic mold that affected me so strong that I was so fucking sick. We escaped from that place. And I remember looking down at the bucket and I was thinking, that kind of looks like the mold that I escaped. And in terms of Chinese medicine, and some practitioners like the one Danica who I worked with later, who I will tell you a little bit about my experience with her because it was very different. She will relate the colors to what your purge was, and she has a knowledge of Chinese medicine. So the color yellow it's related to the color of the stomach and the spleen, so your digestive issue, and the emotion of this organ system is worry. And something that I've noticed since then is I was before Kambo, I was up at night really stuck in these worried thought loops, these obsessive thought loops of like, I'm sick, I have cancer, I'm going to die. And when I'm at my worst, when I can't control those things, it really does run away. And I live my life seeing myself as this really sickly person. And since then, I haven't had any obsessive thought loops like that. So I really feel like I purged the obsessive worry. So after I finished, Natasha told me to take a shower. So I did. We came back. We did some hape. It's another Amazonian plant medicine that is non-psychedelic. It is tobacco snuff that is typically mixed with other herbs. And I've mentioned it in season 1 of the podcast, and it's really one of those medicines that's really changed my life in a way that it deserves its own podcast in itself. So if you're curious, kind of waiting out for that one to be ready to come out. And yeah, that was it. I really did feel wrecked. Like I mentioned, I hadn't eaten for a really long time, which I do not recommend. So I was laying on the couch feeling pretty fucked. And a big ass meal afterwards definitely did revive me. And the next day, I didn't feel that much better. And I was wondering, what the fuck? why? And I did some research, and when you are doing Kambo and knowing that you have candida, fungal, mold overgrowth that you're overcoming within your body, you can experience candida die-off. And if you have done a candida diet and you've experienced candida die-off before, you know that feeling. It really fucking sucks. It is a physical and emotional struggle. And I felt that. And it kind of fucked with me that I felt that. In hindsight, since I've done Kambo, since talking to Danica, I've learned that the typical, some people, they'll do Kambo once and then they're done. They never do it again. Some people, they do Kambo and they do 3 within 3 days or 3 within 1 day. Danica, she did Kambo like a fuck ton, like a bunch after her first learning with it. And then she eventually went to go do a training pretty quickly afterwards. So knowing what I know now, I think Kambo can, for a lot of us, be that initial detox. Emotionally, there were things where I did start to feel stronger slowly, but sometimes you need something to help you carry and finish that detox. So if I could give any suggestion to anyone who's interested in doing Kambo, I would say do 2 to 3 at least ceremonies with Kambo within a couple of days of each other, or maybe within a couple of weeks of each other, to really enable your body to finish off that detox. I've also heard of people doing 3 within 1 day. So it really is all about what you feel called to do, what your goals are, your individual intuition. My second time around with Danica, I felt amazing afterwards. So with Danica, she's such an interesting person. When I was just in the room with her, before even any medicine happened, I felt myself purging. I was talking about things that I don't normally talk about with other people, just by her just asking really basic questions, and I ended up shaking and sobbing. and my best friend Casey was with me, and we actually started the ceremony with a hape ceremony, and Casey was throwing up a lot, and we did not do a lot of hape. Casey was puking a ton. I was all right, and I had a lot of epiphanies, a lot of visions that I'd had in the past working with hape. I realized they were being completed by working with Danica. So the way that Danica works is she works very actively with her guides and with interdimensional beings. She channels light language, and another way that she transmutes is through burping. So it was really interesting. As I was just the beginning of just crying, she was talking to me. She was having a couple of burps, transmuting, as well as discussing with her guides. And after discussing with her guides, we decided that I would be doing just 2 dots. And they would be on my thoracic spine, so my upper spine, on my back, around my heart area. So after we did the hape, I'm sitting there, she burns the holes, and we're waiting for Casey to get back from the bathroom puking, and she comes back and she's talking to Casey, conversing to figure out how much Kambo Casey should be doing. I get up and I go pee, and I come back from the bathroom. There's no medicine in me yet. All I have is the burn holes, and I get to my bucket and I start projectile vomiting, and it was all yellow. It was all bile. I look over at Casey, who's got tears in her eyes from puking so much. And I'm like, what? What's happening? She really creates, what I've come to learn is it doesn't matter how strong the medicine, the quote unquote, how strong the medicine is or how it's prepared. I really think it's the person that you're with, how open their chakras, their crown is, how actively they're working with interdimensional beings, as well as the space that they created. And we went to Danica's home, and she really is very extremely intentional with her space, the way she prepares her space in the beginning. She creates all these grounding cords, and it really enabled an extremely potent experience. So she put the dots in, she does sound healing, she's got gong, she's got music, and she's sitting there with you, asking you, because she said when you are in a state with Kambo, your barriers to listening go down. So you should ask, what am I purging, Kambo? What am I letting go of? And to my surprise, I thought I was letting go of pain and anger, but to my surprise, I heard in response, I just got chills. You're letting go of the need to please. So I let go of the need to please, and really in hindsight, I truly have shifted so strongly in that. And if you haven't heard the first episode of this season, I talk about that. But yeah, the Kambo second time around was deeply uncomfortable. I don't think I would use the word pain per se. It's more that feeling when you have the flu and you feel uncomfortable being in your own body. Danica was tuned into our energy, so she knew when to tell us, thank you, Kambo. Thank you for helping me. And hearing that thank you, feeling that gratitude, it really helped me ride those waves of feeling okay, chilling, feeling awful, puking, feeling low, and then feeling back to being okay again. And actually, I got it wrong. The sound healing that she does with her sound bowls, this big ass gong that she has, as well as some drums, she does post Kambo. So you have the choice to do Sananga, and to my surprise, because I was all in. It's funny because Casey was really on the edge of whether or not she wanted to do Sananga. And right when I was given the choice, I checked in with my guides and they told me no. And Casey checked in with her guides and they said yes. So I ended up, during that sound healing at the end, shaking. My whole body was shaking intensely, and then I just was crying and sobbing, and it wasn't over one certain thing. It was just a pure release. You know, when you're crying and you're thinking about that thing that's making you cry, it makes you cry more. My mind was very clear and quiet. I wasn't finished with my purge. And something that was really different from this time compared to the last time is I felt really great afterwards. And what makes me think that Kambo the first time you're not necessarily going to feel good, that might be like a common thing, is Casey really felt completely out of it afterwards. I was driving us to go get dinner, and she was like, I have no idea how you're able to function so well right now. I think finally my body was able to complete that detox from that first Kambo ceremony. A lot of practitioners, they suggest that you do it within a fortnight. You do 2 to 3 ceremonies within a full moon cycle. And when I do Kambo again, which I will be doing it again, I will do it in that sort of way. So that's my experience with Kambo. I highly recommend it. Obviously, it was physiologically and emotionally, mentally, a huge paradigm shift, game changer, life changer for me. Now I want to get into talk about Sananga, because Sananga and I have a really, really special relationship. And so it's eye drop. The root of the bark of this plant, it's a shrub found in Brazil as well as South America. My guys are telling me, give them the full Latin name. I'm going to fuck it up, but I'll give it to you. So the name of the plant is the Tabernae montana undulata. And it's like a little orchid. It's a cute little orchid, white flower, very delicate. So as I mentioned before, it can treat and prevent ocular disease such as glaucoma, cataracts, farsightedness, nearsightedness, even blindness. It also has an effect on like helping your body detox. It helps with inflammation, so things like arthritis, as well as facial inflammation. Although I mean, that's what they say. Personally, I actually feel like I get a little congested afterwards because I purge a lot within my face. In the Amazon, they do it to help with night blindness. So it helps give you night vision. It helps them they do it for hunting. And then, as I mentioned before, it helps with something called panema, which in the Amazon they see as evil eye. So somebody, not wishing you well, wishing a curse upon you, wishing a curse upon yourself, whether it's within this lifetime or past lifetimes. And a curse could be something just as simple as you consistently saying, God, I'm such an idiot. Oh, You can be such a dumb bitch sometimes. Things like that. And universe, I didn't say that. I didn't mean it. But these things, they add up and they do affect your energetic system, especially if you believe it. What I've come to find that energetically, what Sananga has really helped me is it's taught me how to process grief and anger. Oh, actually, one last thing I want to mention is it has an active compound in it called ibogaine. And ibogaine helps with addiction. So addiction to substances, alcohol, drugs. I feel like it also helps with mental, habitual addictions. I've been serving it to my friends. And one of my friends, he came to me to help with his relationship with weed. And Sananga taught him how he was using weed to in moments where he was processing pain, and he needed to be sober within that pain because he needed to learn that lesson, and he was using weed as a crutch. And since then, he's really felt his relationship and his use of marijuana shift. I am just about to finish a course on Hape that I've done through the Four Visions Market, and they do a whole section, a couple of hours on Sananga. And something that the shaman said is it also helps with, well, Panema can affect one in a way where you can feel like so fatigued, you can't get out of bed, the thought of doing something, it exhausts you. So if somebody experiencing that be experiencing that Panema would be a great candidate for Sananga. He says that it's also really great if you're feeling like you need to do something, but you can't really do it. I've actually used it because before to help with, I don't really love cleaning, and I smoke weed to help me with cleaning, but when I'm trying to work with my boundaries with weed, I will use Sananga instead to help me get it out of my own way. And something that I've learned from Sananga that she's taught me and told me is she helps people see what's truly there. So if you're somebody who's not really able to see what's ahead, you're struggling to get out of your own way, you have a lot of question marks about your future, you are a candidate, you're somebody who would really benefit from Sananga. The shaman in my course, he also said that he will do it after a long day of being in front of the computer, because as again, it has that detox quality to it, so it'll help you with all that blue light radiation from your devices. So I'm going to walk you through now a Sananga ceremony. So my first ceremony was with Natasha, and since then I've asked my husband to administer it for me, and then I've gotten to the point where I just administer it for myself. So ideally you'll lay down because it is toxic. You do not want it getting into your mouth. And you will have your eyes closed. And I like to get people to do breath work before. And I also like to get people to find an intention. It's, why are you doing this? Why are you here? What is your purpose? Having a purpose will help you move through the sensation that you will experience. And as I mentioned before, it's a pain teacher. It's also known as liquid lightning because it is like lightning for a moment, flashing through your fucking eyeballs. So when you have a reason to do it, and I'm there with my clients, with my friends, with myself, reminding myself, one, to breathe. So you get the eye drops in, you keep your eyes closed, you'll start to feel a little bit of a burn, and then your practitioner will instruct you to open your eyes, to flutter, to blink, and then close them again. And that's when you'll feel that initial whoosh pain, and it's a pain through your entire body. And what helps you get through it is one, breath. You have to breathe using that that shamanic breath. So when I do it for others, I'm there breathing right next to them. If they need to squeeze my hand, of course they can squeeze. Sometimes I'll feel the call to pet their head or pet their body but for the most part, I like to keep them alone unless they're really, truly suffering. And then the other thing that helps you get through is your intention. So I'm there reminding you, What are you here to dissolve? What is that memory of anger, of despair, of grief? What is getting between you and becoming your highest form? And a few things about the pain that you do experience is, one, it's temporary. It lasts for, the climax of that pain lasts for about 30 seconds or less, or more. It depends on how much resistance you have. And with that pain, our pain receptors, also known as nociceptors, they have a very strong interaction with our endorphins. So after you experience that flush of pain, your body is flushed with endorphins, and it actually brings you to a really relaxed state. There's been quite a few times where I've fallen asleep after Sananga. But to talk about the temporariness of this pain, yes, you do feel tender for a few minutes after, but if you're hearing this and you're immediately turned off by this medicine due to the 30 to 60 seconds of pain, I want you to consider this. That brief interlude of discomfort enables you to move through months, years, a lifetime of suffering. So when you put it in hindsight, this brief moment is worth so much more than you think. Another thing I want you to consider is how far you'd be willing to go for yourself. I've had people tell me, they die for their child or their loved one. They do anything. But not a lot of people readily tell me how far they're willing to go for their own sake. Have you ever considered that, thought about that to yourself? How much discomfort and work are you willing to go through in order to better know yourself, as well as to better enjoy this life that you're in? That pain, it really truly helps you dissolve what's between you and what you need. And so you'll feel that pain for a little bit, and then your eyes tear up a lot, and then eventually it goes away and you just feel a little bit tender, and you go into this very suggestible state. Sometimes I'll often meditate afterwards, or sometimes I'll even just fall asleep. I had this crazy experience recently where I fell asleep and I walked. It was like meditative, dream-like state. I wasn't entirely asleep, and I was at a tree, and I felt someone kind of drawing my legs and pulling them down towards the earth. And I literally felt like my body was being dragged a little bit. And then in real time, in real life, I felt like, in my sleep, I felt the tree, its roots rising from the ground and lifting my legs. And it felt like somebody grabbed my leg. And I woke up and I freaked the fuck out. I don't think that's normal for others to feel. I think that's just a me thing. But I want to share with you 2 lessons that I've learned from Sananga within ceremony. When you do Sananga, I have had people share that they felt her stay with them for a couple of days afterwards. I've definitely felt that as well. But within ceremony, 2 really important lessons that I've learned. The first was I was about to go home for Thanksgiving, and I was anxious about family drama and getting caught up in things. And I was doing Sananga with the purpose of releasing what's going to get between me and clear, loving communication with my family. And Sananga told me that I have done so much work and so much clearing out that I have access to all my ancestors, but in particular, my healed ancestors. So when I'm with my family and the identifiers that I have, when the daughter gets triggered or the sister gets triggered, rather than showing up as the wounded daughter, the wounded sister, I have access and the ability to show up as the healed ancestor. So that's been a really potent medicine for me. And also one day, it was the first time I was going to administer Sananga for myself. So I started with hape. I think it's really great to do hape before doing Sananga, it's ceremonial tobacco snuff. It really enables you to get in your body. And that's what I love about these medicines, these more, at the risk of, I don't know if this is the right word, I'm going to say subtle medicines, because it's not like bufo or ayahuasca where you're being blasted off, or mushrooms where it's very obvious that you're going on a trip, you're going on a journey. And it's more with these medicines, it's more subtle whispers that you hear from the other side, and you're very much with your human. So doing hape before doing Sananga is really helpful in helping you get into your body so that you can open up those chakras of higher consciousness, where Sananga is administered so close to your ajna, your third eye center, as well as your crown. And it also is has very slight pain-killing properties. This is what the shaman in my hape course has said. He said that it actually will, okay, pain is a perception, right? When you resist pain, it becomes more painful. I mean, you could also say, one could say is pain is resistance. So hape will kind of help you bring down your level of resistance. So I done hape, and then I was doing a little bit of womb clearing, and I was really struggling to be present within my womb clearing, because which is kind of like a pleasure practice, but it's more than that. It's you're searching for spots within your body, your uterus, your womb space, where you're feeling numbness, and you kind of hold those spaces to allow sensation to come through, because typically within your uterus where you're feeling numbness, there's a sign that there's trauma there. That's a whole other thing that that's like sexual healing topic. But I was really struggling to be within it, because I knew after that I was going to be doing Sananga, and it was going to really fucking hurt. And just before I had done it, I had a ceremony. It was the most painful ceremony yet, and I resisted, and I rubbed my eyes, and rubbing my eyes made it so much worse. So I started holding Sananga within this pleasure practice, this womb clearing ceremony, and I was saying, Sananga, I'm so fucking scared of you. Help me. And she said, Stephanie, pain is perception. And when you can let down your barriers to sensation that is uncomfortable, that is labeled as pain, you allow something completely different to come through. And it really calmed me down. And so when I administered the Sananga, I was in this completely different state. I don't know what the word was, but it completely opened me up in a new way, and I really didn't feel pain. And since then, you really do get used to the pain of Sananga. And since then I felt more of the emotional purge has been more intensive than the physical one. Every time it's different. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on the two medicines of Kambo and Sananga. How often somebody would do Sananga, I went through a phase, a couple of months, where I was doing it once a week. If you are looking to treat eye disease, it's suggested that you actually do it 20 to 30 days nonstop, and you don't wear your glasses, your corrective vision lenses during that time as much as you can. If you really want to make a physical change within your body, it really requires a level of dedication. I do it a lot less. I think it's been a couple of weeks since I've done it, but I'm starting to feel the call again. And the whole experience, it depends. Some people take about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm at the point now where it's like under 5 minutes. So it is absolutely a journey. You are an apprentice within all of these medicines. You are receiving much more than the physical benefits. You're receiving all the downloads. And as a student, of course, we always have to ask ourselves, how do we give back? How do we take these lessons and to share them with the world? And within every plant medicine podcast, it's like all my caveats. And then my last thing I will always mention is, it doesn't matter how many times you do ceremony, how many times you meditate with these plants and all of that stuff. What matters is how you bring these lessons into the world. That's the most important thing, because that's how you change the world. And, that's why so many of us are here on this medicine path. The world won't change through fighting and resistance, because as I've now learned, that creates pain. The world will change through medicine. And so by receiving medicine, you will be able to share your medicine with others. Thank you so much for listening to this show. If you liked it, please give me your review. It's so valuable to me. Leave me a rating. Please share with a friend. And be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode every Monday. All right. I will be feeling your energy next week.